Hey, and welcome to the mixing process. So a couple months ago, I made a video titled How to Pan Instruments in a Mix. I'll tag it up above so you can go get caught up if you haven't seen it. But this video is by far my most watched video to date. However, this video only focused on panning instruments in a studio or true stereo environment. The challenge is that anybody who mixes audio on a stereo PA, not a mono PA, if you mix on a mono PA, this is kind of a different conversation. But if you mix on a stereo PA in a live venue, you deal with a much more complicated situation than someone who mixes in a studio when it comes to panning. And here's why. When you're mixing with a properly spaced near-field monitor setup or in headphones, you're creating a true stereo mixing experience. You have a left channel, you have a right channel, and you sit directly between them. In a live mixing situation, this is rarely the case because even if you as the front of house engineer are situated perfectly in the center of the stereo image, not everyone in the room has the same benefit. So as the engineer, it's your responsibility to make sure that you create the best audio experience for everyone in the room, not just the people sitting right in the middle of the stereo image. So if I were to pan things in a live environment the exact same way I pan things in a stereo environment, I would get a completely different audio experience depending on where I sat in the room, which is definitely not what we're going for, and it's not what we want. So in light of this, how should we pan instruments in a live sound environment? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video, but before we get too far down this road, if you haven't already downloaded my free mixing guide, the 7-Step Mix, I'd encourage you to go visit my website, themixingprocess.com. You're going to find this guide, and it's going to help you walk through your mixes from start to finish and get good, consistent results out of your mixing process. It's going to teach you what to do first and then second and third and all the way to the end to get you those good consistent results. So if that sounds like it'd be helpful for you, it's completely for free to you. You can download it again on my website, themixingprocess.com. Okay, back to panning instruments in a live setting. The very first thing that I want to do before I even touch the mixing console is I want to make sure that I have set myself up with as many sources as I can in stereo. So I'm talking electric guitars, keyboards, pianos, drum overhead mics, all of those kinds of things. Everything that I can run in stereo, I want to run in stereo. And this gives me the option to use them in a wide stereo panning situation if I decide that that's helpful once I start mixing. So once I've set myself up, I actually mostly use similar panning techniques as I do in studio mixing. I'm trying to create a good sense of space in my mix so it doesn't feel like all of my inputs are crammed on top of each other. But here's the key. This is where it differs a little bit from live to studio. When it comes to mono inputs, nothing I do is panned extreme left or extreme right. And here's why, okay? In the studio, I can take a mono input and pan it hard left, hard right, because I know that a listener is still going to hear it even if it's only in one ear. So if they're listening on a pair of headphones, I pan something hard right, they're still going to hear it. It's just only going to be in the right ear. In a live environment, this is not the case. If I have somebody sitting on the left side of the room and I pan an input hard right, then that person on the left side of the room isn't going to hear it because they're only listening to the left speaker. All right, so that's the difference between a studio setup and a live setup when it comes to panning. You have to be careful about this and understand how it works. You don't want where the person sits in the room to dictate what they hear. That would be ridiculous. So with that said, here are the guidelines that I tend to follow pretty closely when it comes to panning sound in a live environment. If the source is stereo, I can pan that source hard left, hard right, or any combination of the two because I know that because it's a stereo source, no matter where the person sits in the room, they're going to hear it. It will vary a little bit, but they're going to hear that source. If it's a mono source, I still might pan it a little bit, but I'm going to use much tighter panning than I would in a studio mix. So here's a couple examples. If I'm mixing drums, if I've got toms on the left and toms on the right, I might mix them a little bit to one side, a little bit to the other. My hi-hat might be a little bit on the left side. My ride cymbal might be a little bit on the right. But then when it comes to my stereo overheads, I actually have the freedom to spread them out a little bit more if I decide that that's the feel that I want. When it comes to an instrument like an electric guitar, same kind of thing as those drum overheads. Because they're a stereo source, let's say if I have two electric guitarists, one on each side of the stage, because they're in stereo, I can take the left electric guitarist and I can put his left channel hard left. Right channel I can put up the middle. And the opposite with the person on the right side of the stage. I can take their left channel and put it up the middle. I can put their right channel on the hard right side. And this makes a great stereo spread when it comes to electric guitars, a nice wide electric guitar mix. But it doesn't make it so that one person on one side of the room misses out on one electric guitar. They're both stereo inputs, and that's why I can spread them a lot further without people missing out. So hopefully this was helpful, understanding the difference between panning in a studio environment versus a live sound environment. This is a key thing to understand because, like I said, if you go into a live sound environment and it mix exactly like how you would do in studio, you're going to create some missing experiences for different people in the room depending on how you do that. That's not what we're looking for. So hopefully this helped you get a good idea of how to mix well in a live sound environment. If you have any questions about this, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to answer them. Go be great at what you do. Thanks for watching. We will see you on the next one.